I'm glad you're here at Beyond 60 Stories, where every life has a story to tell. When we are young, love often begins with attraction. A spark, a look, the feeling of being drawn to someone who makes our hearts race. But after 60, love begins somewhere very different. It begins with an inner sense of safety, a calm recognition, a feeling that nothing needs to be proven anymore. I've noticed that men at this stage of life are no longer searching for someone who makes them feel young again. They are not trying to outrun time or relive an old version of themselves. What they are quietly looking for is something far more honest. They want to feel allowed to be exactly who they are, without performance, without explanation, without emotional noise. This is why men do not marry because of promises or effort alone. They do not commit because someone tries harder or gives more. They commit when being near a woman feels like rest, when her presence creates a space they don't want to leave. In this video, I want to share 5 inner qualities that change how love unfolds after 60. 4 of them come from years of observing real relationships at this stage of life. The final one is the upgrade that allows love to stay deep without losing oneself along the way. Before we continue, if you find comfort or clarity in conversations like this, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to Beyond 60 Stories, where we share quiet reflections on love, life, and meaning after 60. And the first one begins with something most people overlook, yet men feel it immediately the moment they are in its presence. Trait number 1. Emotional safety is the new attraction. At this stage of life, attraction no longer arrives loudly. It doesn't announce itself through excitement or intensity. It arrives quietly, almost unnoticed, in the moment a man realizes he can finally exhale in someone's presence. For men over 60, emotional safety has replaced passion as the deepest form of attraction. This does not mean desire has disappeared, it means desire has matured. What once chased novelty now seeks steadiness, and what once thrived on tension now longs for peace. This shift is subtle, but once it happens, it changes everything about how commitment forms. Many people confuse being pleasant with being safe. Pleasantness looks like smiling often, agreeing quickly, avoiding difficult conversations, and smoothing over discomfort. Emotional safety is something else entirely. Safety is when a man is allowed to be himself, even when that self feels uncertain, tired, or imperfect. Safety is not about constant harmony, but about not being punished for honesty. By the time a man reaches his later years, he has spent decades holding himself together. He has learned to carry responsibility quietly, to manage fear privately, and to push through limitation without complaint. Rarely has he been permitted to admit vulnerability without feeling diminished. When a woman does not rush to correct him, when she does not minimize his doubts, when she does not subtly measure his worth by his strength, something inside him begins to soften, not because she tries to open him, but because she does not close him when he opens himself. That distinction matters more than words ever could. Emotional safety is felt in small moments that carry great weight. It is present in how she responds when he speaks carefully about something difficult. It lives in her patience when he struggles to articulate feelings he was never taught to name. It reveals itself in her calm when he admits fear, limitation, or uncertainty, without wrapping it in humor or control. When a man reaches the point where he can quietly think, "With her, I don't have to brace myself," attraction transforms into devotion. Love becomes something he wants to protect, not escape. And from this foundation of safety, something else naturally begins to emerge. Something even rarer, the experience of being truly seen beyond all the roles he has ever played. Trait number 2, seeing the man behind the Zoe. Most men spend their lives being recognized without ever being truly seen. They are noticed for what they provide, what they fix, what they accomplish, and what they endure, but rarely for who they are when no one is asking anything of them. By the time a man reaches his later years, admiration has lost its power. Compliments about strength or success land politely, but they no longer reach the deeper places inside him. What he quietly longs for is something far rarer. He wants to feel that someone sees the man beneath the titles, beneath the history, beneath the responsibilities he once carried without question. I've watched this happen in simple, unremarkable moments. A woman listens to a man talk about his past, not with curiosity about outcomes, but with attention to meaning. She notices how carefully he chose certain paths, how often he put others first, how some decisions still sit heavily in his chest. She doesn't interrupt to reassure him or redirect the conversation. She lets the silence do its work. When she reflects back what she senses, not what sounds impressive, but what feels true. A sentence like, "You've always taken responsibility seriously, even when no one thanked you," reaches deeper than praise ever could. In that moment, the man does not feel evaluated. He feels understood. Psychologically, this experience is profoundly grounding. When a man feels that his inner character, he becomes more willing to invest, not because he is asked to, but because the connection feels safe and meaningful. He starts to imagine a future that includes presence, not performance. Let me ask you something, and I invite you to reflect honestly. Have you ever felt the difference between being admired and being truly understood? If you have, I would love to hear what that moment felt like for you in the comments, because those experiences carry quiet wisdom we all learn from a woman who sees a man clearly does not make him proud in front of others. She gives him something far more powerful. She allows him to feel valuable even when he is alone with himself. And from that sense of being seen, another shift begins to take shape, one that has nothing to do with him at all, but everything to do with the life she is already living. Trait number 3, a life that is already full. Nothing unsettles attraction more quietly than realizing you are not someone's entire world. And nothing draws a man closer, especially after 60, than sensing that a woman's life is already rich before he ever enters it. There's a deep psychological shift that happens later in life. Men no longer want to be the center of someone's universe. That role carries weight, pressure, and an unspoken responsibility to fill emotional gaps that were never theirs to begin with. What they respond to instead is a woman whose life moves with its own rhythm, steady and grounded, whether he is present or not. Purpose does not need to be grand or impressive. It lives in curiosity, in daily rituals, in the quiet joy of tending to something meaningful. A sense of purpose shows up in how a woman speaks about her days, how she engages with the world, and how she remains emotionally upright within her own life. This creates an energy that does not reach outward for completion. It simply exists. When a man senses that a woman's happiness does not depend on him, something unexpected happens inside him. The pressure to perform disappears, the fear of disappointing fades. In its place, curiosity emerges. He begins to wonder what it would feel like to step into her life, rather than be responsible for sustaining it. This is where attraction quietly transforms. He is no longer the source of meaning. He becomes a participant, and participation chosen freely carries far more emotional weight than obligation. A woman with a full life does not demand effort, yet effort rises naturally in response to her presence. There is something profoundly attractive about emotional self-sufficiency. It signals stability, maturity, and inner abundance. It tells a man without words that love here will be additive, not consuming. And this is only part of the picture. What truly reshapes commitment lies in what comes next. Are you ready for that? Trait number 4. Choosing him, not needing him. There is a subtle moment in every relationship when a man senses whether he is being invited or required. The difference is quiet, but it changes how he shows up more than any conversation ever could. Needing creates weight, choosing creates dignity. When a woman's happiness rests on a man's presence, even gently he feels pressure to maintain her emotional balance. But when she stands firmly in her own life and still chooses him, something very different awakens. He feels respected, not responsible, wanted, not obligated. I once watched this unfold between two people who had both been married before. The woman enjoyed her routines, her friendships, her mornings exactly as they were. She did not hide her independence, and she did not apologize for it. When she spent time with him, it was clear she was there because she wanted to be, not because she needed reassurance or rescue. There were no demands for clarity, no subtle checks for commitment, no emotional leaning disguised as affection. Over time, he began to lean on his own. He planned ahead, he made space, he invested emotionally without being asked, not because she pulled him closer, but because her freedom. He felt chosen, and that feeling carried weight. Psychologically, this dynamic restores balance. A man who feels chosen experiences pride without pressure. He does not feel trapped by expectation or measured by performance. Instead, he feels trusted to arrive at commitment in his own time. That trust invites action far more reliably than urgency ever could. Have you ever noticed how differently someone responds when they feel chosen rather than needed? If that question stirs something in you, I'd love for you to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. Your insight may resonate with someone else more than you realize. Men do not marry because they are held tightly. They marry when they realize they are free to stay, and that realization quietly prepares the ground for the deepest form of intimacy, the kind that allows closeness without losing oneself. Trait number 5, emotional independence inside intimacy. Closeness does not deepen because two lives merge completely. In fact, the most enduring intimacy often grows where two people remain whole while standing side by side. Many women discover later in life that loving deeply, they have already learned what it costs to dissolve their needs, rhythms, and inner compass for the sake of togetherness. Maturity brings a different wisdom. Love can be generous without being consuming. Connection can be warm without being restrictive. Emotional independence within intimacy is not it is the quiet knowledge of who you are, even when you are deeply connected to someone else. It shows up in having your own inner life, your own pace, your own emotional center. For a man over 60, this kind of intimacy feels profoundly relieving. There is no fear of being swallowed by expectations or of becoming someone he is not. He senses that love here will not require him to abandon himself to belong. That realization allows closeness to feel spacious rather than. When a woman maintains her inner independence, she sends a powerful unspoken message. You matter to me, and I am still myself. This balance creates trust, not through reassurance, but through consistency. It tells a man that love will not come at the cost of freedom, dignity, or identity. This is why emotional independence does not weaken the connection. It strengthens it. It allows affection to breathe. It lets intimacy grow without urgency or fear. A man who feels free inside love does not pull away. He settles in the women men choose to build a life with, later in love, carry this quiet steadiness. They are close without clinging, open without dissolving. And when all of these qualities come together, safety, being seen, purpose, choice, and independence, something unmistakable begins to form. Not urgency, not drama, but a calm readiness for commitment that no longer needs to be rushed. And that is where the heart of this story truly comes into focus. As I look back on everything we shared, one truth feels especially clear to me. These 5 qualities are not technique, and they are not strategies designed to secure love. They are ways of living. They emerge naturally, When a woman is rooted in herself, at peace with who she has become, and no longer trying to earn connection through effort or sacrifice. Love after 60 is quieter than it once was. It doesn't rush in with urgency or drama. It moves slowly, with depth, with honesty, and with a kind of truth that doesn't need to announce itself. At this stage of life, love is not about filling a void. It is about sharing a life that already stands on its own. The right man does not need to be convinced or persuaded. He doesn't need pressure or promises. He simply needs to recognize something deeply personal and unmistakable. His life feels calmer, richer, and more meaningful with you in it than without you. If this reflection resonated with you, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to Beyond 60 Stories. We gather here to share wisdom. Until next time, take gentle care of your heart and the life you've built around it.